Right, hello Year 5. This is week commencing the 18th of January's first curriculum lesson, and it's all about astronomy. And our LO today is knowing about the key players or people in the history of astronomy. So, what is astronomy the study of? That's your start to think of. What could it involve? Giving you this picture here to have a think about what it might be about. How do you think it could have influenced our understanding of space? And do you know any famous astronomers? I think you'll surprise yourself when I say a few of their names in a bit. So I'll pause the video there, have a chat, and I'll tell you what it is in a minute when you unpause it. Okay, right. Astronomy is the study of the night sky, I suppose we'd call it, space. It involves using a telescope, which is this here, which helps us see. It magnifies the sky. It's studying the stars around us, and it's studying the planets in our solar system and planets beyond that, not just in our solar system, but planets all across the universe. I want you to, in terms of how it thinks its understanding influenced our understanding of space, by looking at space, by being able to see it through our own eyes using these telescopes, obviously being able to see a massive amount of people, a massive amount of planets, stars, seeing what the universe looks like, and through looking at it and studying what it looks like and how different things act, how different things move, we've obviously been able to understand space. I'm not going to answer this one just yet, just because we're going to get into that today and understand the history of how we viewed our solar system. So we're going to be going right back to before the year zero, when people first looked up without telescopes and noticed you could see some planets in a clear night, which you can still do now, but obviously with things like street lights and other things giving off light, it's hard to see deeper into space with just our eyes than it was back then, before the invention of obviously electricity and light. Okay, so these are three really important ones. This is Ptolemy, this is Copernicus, and this is one that I'm sure you'll have heard of. This is Galileo. I'm not sure if you'll get that joke, but it's from a song. I think I was about 11 when that song came out, but some of you might recognise it. I just thought I'd put it in there because it's quite funny, for me at least anyway. So, Ptolemy in 150 AD, that means 150 years before the year zero. He says, like Aristotle, who was another famous philosopher, a thinker, I believe that the Earth is the centre of the universe, and the Sun and 5 planets orbit us. Boom. I want you to pause the video there and have a think. Was Ptolemy right? But I also want you to think about, did he know any better? Was he able to have a telescope, or did he have the technology that we have us today over 2,000 years later? And was he able to work out anything different than that? Okay, so Ptolemy probably saw that and realized that he was alive on other planets. He didn't know. We still don't know today if there's life on any other planet. So Ptolemy obviously didn't, because he had very, very little technology. But he looked around. He could probably see the 5 planets from Earth, from his place, from his house in the clear night sky, and he probably didn't fully realise what was going on around him. He probably thought, well, we're here, the other humans are here, there's lots of other planets going around us, we must be at the centre. As I'm sure you would, without having any other knowledge, being able to check anything else out or have a greater understanding. As I say, this was before the year zero, it's well over 2,000 years ago. So this is what he thought was happening. Ptolemy thought that Earth was in the middle here. Mercury, Venus, and the Sun all orbited Earth along with Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and he thought that there was a sphere of stars. He thought that the solar system was surrounded by stars, and Earth was at the centre of it, with Mercury, Venus, and the Sun, Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn all orbiting Earth. Now, obviously, we know that's not true, but that was the first person who really discovered the solar system and other planets around it. So we're going right back to when they first were discovered, or first seen rather than discovered. The next person is Copernicus, who was Polish. So he says he doesn't believe Ptolemy's theory. He doesn't have a clue, he says. I believe the sun is at the centre of the universe. Earth is just one of the 5 planets that orbits it. The Earth spins on its axis, and that's why it appears the stars and our sun move across the sky. Oh yes, I'm so clever, he says. So he says Earth is just one of the 5 planets that orbits Earth. So really, he's got some of that right, hasn't he? Hasn't he, sorry. He says that the sun's at the centre and the Earth orbits it, but he's made a mistake here, hasn't he? He said there's only 5 planets. We know that there's a lot more than 5 planets, but again, this is 500 years ago. He still didn't really know. He still didn't have access to any sort of telescope to look and see his theory for himself. He didn't have the ability to go and check it for himself. So he says the Earth spins on its axis. That's why it appears the stars and sun moves across the sky. Oh yes, I'm so clever. Which he's right about, again, isn't he? We know that the Earth spins as it moves around the sun. That's why we get night and day. When the sun's spinning and we're toward our bit of the world, England and Sheffield, is towards the sun, we can see that it's day, we can see clearly, we can see sunlight, or we can see the weather. When it spins around again and we're facing away from the sun, that's when we see night, don't we? So Copernicus started to get this idea 500 years ago. He just made one mistake in terms of there's a lot more than 5 planets, isn't there? So this is what he thought happened. He thought he could see the sun in the middle with Mercury orbiting it closely, which is right. He then thought there was Venus, which orbited next, which again is right. And then he saw Earth, which he knew was right again. And he can also see that the moon's moving round Earth like that at different parts, which again is true, isn't it? He could see Mars moving round, Jupiter and Saturn, but he couldn't see anything past Saturn. Now, to see Saturn alone without a telescope is really, really, really good because it's so far away. It's not like Earth to the Mars is just like going to the shops, is it? Or even just going on holiday to another country. It's a really, it would take years to get to, even now with the technology that we've got. Okay, the next one is the most famous one, which I'm sure you would have heard of. Galileo. Now, he built a telescope. He says he's pretty pleased with himself. Copernicus is right. The planets do orbit the sun. But both Galileo and Copernicus were worried about the church, the Christian church's views, so he didn't publish his ideas just before his death. That's what Copernicus did, but Galileo's decided he's going to publish it. He's worried that, again, this is 400 years ago, the church was a much bigger, much more important thing in people's life in Europe, which is where these are from. Galileo and Copernicus are from. He was worried that the church, who ruled over all of them, was going to be angry at them for almost saying that actually God didn't create the universe, which is not what they're saying. They're just challenging the view that the earth is at the centre of the universe, which obviously it's not, is it? So this is what they said to him when he published his ideas. The church said, your ideas are blasphemy, which means it's against God. You should be placed under house arrest. So they locked him in his house. But Galileo got to keep his telescope, and even until his death in his house, which he was locked in, he continued to study the universe and find out more things. And it's really because of this man, Galileo, that we were able to find so much out about the universe. And it's the reason we've got the understanding today about the universe. And obviously people are more accepting of science than they are in Europe, for instance, of the church. So they're a lot more accepted, which is good. So there we go. These two are other scientists. I know you'll have heard of this one, Sir Isaac Newton. You might not have heard of Kepler. So Kepler says that circular orbits mean the planets are not in the right place. not in the right place at the right time. The orbits must be elliptical. Now that means they move in different ways. I'll attach a video showing that. So it's not always that they're moving around in circles like this one, this diagram shows. So it's not just that they're going round in circles. They might be going around it here. They might be going over the sun and round it, sort of like that. It might be a bit different, but you can research that as much as you want. So Newton says that gravity is the force that causes this shaped orbit and shall be measured in the Newton. You've used Newton meters before, haven't you, to measure force? So gravity, everything being pulled towards the sun, is what causes us to move around it in that shape. Okay, so I'll put some more information here about telescopes. So optical telescopes on Earth need to be as high as possible, where the atmosphere is thinner, so that the light is scattered less, which means we can see into space a lot easier. Optical telescopes can be placed on satellites, so they experience little distortion. They can see even further into space because they're already in space. And radio telescopes pick up heat energy in the form of radio waves, which penetrate the murk of stars, gas, and debris in space. That means that using radio telescopes, you can see really, really far. You can see into different galaxies, which is really, really important, obviously. This is an image from the most famous space telescope that Earth's made, called the Hubble telescope, and that's a 20th anniversary image. Shows a mountain of dust and gas rising in the Carina Nebula, the top of a 3 light year tall pillar of cold hydrogen is being worn away by the radiation of nearby stars, while stars within the pillar unleash jets of gas that stream from the peaks. So that's just essentially a mountain made out of gas in the middle of space. And that's the sort of thing that modern telescopes have let us take pictures of. So I've attached a piece of work which I'll show you in a minute, but after you've done that piece of work, I know a few of you, certainly in my class, have decided that they wanted to use a PowerPoint on things that we've looked at before, and they've gone home and they've had a look at the work that we've been doing in school, and they've made a PowerPoint. So I've set this bit of a challenge. Certainly don't have to do it. I'll just be really impressed if you can. See if you can find any more information on the theories about the astronomers that we've looked at today. So that's Ptolemy, it's Copernicus, it's Galileo, Kepler, and Newton. Any theories that they found out, you can find out more information about them. I'd be really interested if you can do a page about each and tell me more and more about their theories. At the end of it, you could maybe even tell us who you think is the most important and influential of all these astronomers and who had the most influential ideas. I'd be really impressed. I know the people in my class know this, but once you've done this, you can email the PowerPoints if you decide to make them to the Year 5 email address so that me and Miss Biggs can have a look at your hard work. We'd be really impressed to see that. Obviously, you don't have to do that, like I said, but I'd just be really impressed if you could. And I know a lot of you in both classes will be interested in finding more out about space and the history of how we know so much about space today. Your task today looks like this. It's in a proud folder thing. I'm going to send it out in A3. We can blow it up when we're back and hopefully stick it in so everyone has a go at it and it looks really, really good. You're just going to fill out what we've learnt today. So this is obviously Ptolemy. You can tell me about his idea. How did he know it? You can research that. Again, this is Copernicus, this is Galileo. You're just filling that out. You're telling me what their idea is, evidence. In this bit here, I've just put, how has the knowledge of our solar system changed since the other planets have been discovered? So I want you to tell me how the planets were discovered. Research that. I want you to tell me more about how people's views on astronomers have changed. Obviously, they arrested Galileo for what he said and put him in. Told him he couldn't leave his house. Tell me more about any other discoveries that have happened, and tell me everything that you can find out about what knowledge we have today of our solar system and how these three men helped us to understand our solar system more and why they are so important. So keep safe, keep working hard, and remember to have some fun as well. Please email with any questions or ring up. See you later, year 5.